Our next question this week is from New Dust. Hello, Mr. Pachter. Do you think that online passes are a step to split up single player and multiplayer, or make the public more accustomed for full digital downloads? You know, I don't. I think online passes are a feeble attempt to wipe out the used game business. And I think that what the publishers who put them in are trying to do is say, you know, we think we have an increasing number of people buying our game who want to play multiplayer, and we just don't want that game resold and have somebody else play it. So as a practical matter, you're probably right. A used version of a game with an online pass is more likely to be bought by somebody who just wants a single player experience. The conflict is that more and more games now have multiplayer features built in. And I think that in a few years, all games will be multiplayer. So I don't think that there'll be any desire to split up. I have to say, you know, just anecdotally talking to Call of Duty players, I'd say 5 out of 6 that I talk to never even bother with the single player campaign. They buy the game and they go right into multiplayer. So I think that's the way that the industry's headed, and I think that'll keep going. All right, fellow babies, our next question is from DFrag GT, and I'm hoping GT is game trailers. Good day, Pac-Man. Good day. You think this guy's an Aussie? Could be. What do you think about the Eurasian market, especially Russian? The consumer pool is huge, but I don't think that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are really focusing on this market, and I wonder why. You know, I'm not an expert about all these other countries, but the console guys tend to move very slowly and avoid markets where there's a lot of piracy. So I don't want to slam the Russian market because I don't know that there is piracy there. But the two reasons you don't tend to see, you know, consoles in a territory are either tariff protection, that's the case in Brazil, so a console costs something like $1,500, or a lot of piracy, and that would be maybe a country like Spain with the Nintendo DS, where it's really easy to buy ripped-off copies or replicators for games in the market. And so I'd say, you know, while these markets are pretty big and while they're pretty wealthy, I mean, the average household income in Russia is probably pretty high and certainly, you know, comparable to Western Europe. I think that the console manufacturers avoid them because they don't think they can make a profit. And as I said, the basis for not making a profit is either the tax structure, tariff structure, so it costs so much to get a console or to get games that very few people will buy them, or piracy, so that when the consoles are introduced there, they're just not going to be able to sell enough copies to make any sense out of being in business there. I don't know what you do to fix that. I mean, you know, this is an evolving process. I think that protecting intellectual property is pretty important, and if you want high quality entertainment, you have to make sure that the people who create the entertainment, you know, receive fair value for what they create. If they make the entertainment and they can't sell it, then they won't have enough profit to make the next piece of entertainment, and the industry will just go away. This week's next question comes from Pilote de Ciel, which I gotta believe means pilot of the sky. Sky pilot. Is that a game? I have no idea. I like that though. What's your take on early adoption of hardware? I'm excited for the new PS Vita, but I'm concerned about the likelihood of another PSP 2000 where early adopters got a clunky, underpowered version. I'd say as a general rule, early adoption is a bad idea. Normally you do see the second and third generation of the console or of the handheld much sleeker, much better. That's happened with every console I can remember being introduced. I guess except the original Xbox, there wasn't a second one. But I have to say, having touched and played the PlayStation Vita, it's pretty slick. The odds of you getting a higher powered version are really low. I think the only thing you really probably could look forward to that's a meaningful change is battery life is going to get better. So if they redesign the handheld a year or two later, it'll just have a more efficient power consumption, probably longer battery life and less battery drain. I doubt that it's going to get significantly smaller. I mean, this thing is all about screen size, and it wasn't really all that thick. So on the PlayStation Vita, I'd say you probably are pretty safe being an early adopter. On most consoles, you're probably not. I mean, most consoles you're going to find that you like the second iteration better. All right, fellow babies, if you have a question, please visit the link below or follow me on Twitter @MichaelPachter. And if you submit a question on Twitter, it's @MichaelPachter and copy @RohanLikesPants because Rohan, my producer, picks all the questions. So make sure you say something nice about him as well. And appreciate your tuning in. We'll see you next week. We're gonna answer some really interesting questions this week, so don't fall asleep.
Just keep going.
Hey, fellow babies. I'm cracking myself up here. I think of things that sounds funny, then I realize I'm not going to say that. I can't say that. All right.